Right, so let's give this row a try then. Is that what we're doing next?
Yeah. Actually, let me do a set.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I've got to say about the row. I'll say this before I'm out of breath, because I will be. The row is a very unique moment because the curve of power of the bicep and the lat come together in a weird way where actually the middle is the most powerful position. It's only multi-joint movement of the body where the fully contracted position is not. So the lats work a little differently, and it's mostly because the lats have a different curve. So what I end up doing is only a few repetitions go full, and then I might do 30 mid-range repetitions. So the diminishing range here is super important. And that's how, because we get questions like, well, the curve is different for each exercise. Yeah, we thought of that, and that's part of the programming. There's a whole chapter just on the row in the book and how its curve is so drastically different from almost everything else. I'm just going to pull it up. I'm also going to tip up at a kind of a 45-degree angle, which is something I recommend for people with bad backs. I don't have a bad back,
Me.
but almost everybody has something with their lower spine. So, like, instead of being just parallel with the ground, 45-degree angle is pretty good.
You're not letting it fully out at the bottom.
No, I never let my arms go straight. So keeping constant tension. Okay, so I can't get to the top anymore.
Yeah.
So now I just do these partials because it's all I can do. But it's with a lower weight, so I can fatigue much more muscle.
Right, let's give that a go.
Perfect. Yeah.
I can feel that.
Oh yeah.
Just got my heart into the green zone. It's all right for standing there, lifting a band.
Right.
I can slowly start to sort of feel how it works.
Yeah.
I couldn't get that by looking at just.
Well, so many
really?
people have had so many experiences just grabbing a band at the gym and stepping on it and trying to do a curl, and their wrists are twisting while they're doing it, and they're like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like, I'll just get some dumbbells.
Yeah.
And I understand. I just knew what humans were capable of in the strongest range because of my bone density medical device. So that's how I knew, because I saw little old ladies put 6 times their body weight through their hip joint the first training session because we did just isolated the impact ready range.
Right.
And these are women who never worked out. They're osteoporotic and they're in their mid-50s. So totally deconditioned by any definition. And they're massively loading the body because they're using a millimeter of range of motion.
Right.
So I'm thinking, if the human body is capable of producing that level of force, well, we don't use it when we work out. So maybe lifting weights is not the answer.
Obviously this is for people who want to build muscle, but say for example you're like my dad, like 70, 75.
Yeah.
And obviously their muscle really drops off when you get to that age.
Yep.
Is this something for sort of older people as well, where maybe they don't go like what we're doing?
My
here,
dad's 88 and he does it.
Right.
Now you got to make sure that they're okay. Like he has some gout issues, he has some joint issues. You know, like my dad's generation, they were just sort of, it'll heal up. Like
Right.
so they'll throw themselves into an injury position to sort of get the job done. And I saw him do like yard work that would just like destroy his joints when I was a kid. And he liked doing it, so he did it. And now he's paying for it. So we know a lot more about how important keeping our joints healthy are. Like our parents' generation just like threw that shit in the trash. Yeah, when you do work with an older person, you gotta totally be mindful of their limitations.
Right.
You know, like for example, when he does a row, he either grabs over the top because he doesn't have the ability to supinate the hand,
Okay.
or he'll use globe grips. You know what globe grips are?
No.
It's a sphere, it's a latex sphere with a slit in it, and then it's got a hole the size of a gauge, an Olympic gauge.
Okay, yeah, I know.
And so it snaps onto the bar, and so you can adjust your wrist.
Right. And with the muscle building part, have you done any testing to show like with one? Because it feels like I've got quite a pump on with my back, and definitely feel as I've done a good set or a few sets. Have you been able to sort of see what that does in terms of building muscle over time? Has that been researched or?
It's been anything that I do. You know, someone's gonna say like the data was faked or whatever. So there's a lot of trolls out there, and so I'd rather somebody else come up with this conclusion. So there's a couple of university trials that we're talking about happening. Also, I think one of the reasons why the fitness industry doesn't read research. I mean, number one, it's hard. You got to be an academic to read academic research, mostly because of the statistical tests. If you don't understand the statistical test, it's meaningless. The whole paper is meaningless. So, muscle mass is not a thing in medicine. It's like nobody cares. So, and it doesn't solve any problem. Well, we know it kind of does, because a lack of muscle mass, sarcopenia, is an indicator of organ failure, right? So your muscles and your organs have a very symbiotic relationship. Like the more muscle mass you have, the more demand you have on your organs, and that's going to keep you alive longer, which is why one of the greatest indicators of long life is high levels of strength. But they don't say high levels of mass. So it's really, like, you won't find muscle mass, maybe body composition and weight loss studies. That's about all you're going to find about muscle mass in a lot of these studies, because that's what's tested. Yeah.
And what's the difference? It's funny, I was watching Mike Chandler. We had an Olympic bar on a rack with a band like this, but with two Olympic plates on. So what would be the difference of doing this as opposed to doing it with on a real Olympic bar with some weights, whether it's squatting, the same movements? What's the pros and the cons with
Yeah, so putting bands on a bar, that can be done.
Yeah.
And like if you're training for a powerlifting event, you might want to do that.
Yeah.
Or you could use X3 and then do your powerlifting. That would make more sense. But the problem with that is the highest degrees of variance have shown the best results. That is in research that I did not do.
Right.
So other researchers came to that conclusion. So, and it's really important so that way there's no conflict of interest. I don't even know the guys that came to that conclusion. But you really want the proper level of variance. So like it's 7-to-1 in a 1 rep max. You're 7 times stronger here than you are here.
Right.
But that we don't live in a 1 rep max world. In fact, 1 rep maxes don't really stimulate any growth. They're kind of stupid. So if you're going to break down, like into a repetition scheme, the ratio's a little different. It might be 5-to-1. That's a huge level of variance. So what most people have, weights on a bar and bands on a bar, they might be holding X here and 1.2X here. or 1.5x here.
So there's not enough variance.
Right, whereas we're X here and 5X here.
Okay.
So the variance curve has gotten huge.
Right.
And in fact, one of the problems with bands is bands are linear. They go up like this. Well, what the human body does, it goes up like this. So it's sort of like weak, a little less weak, maybe some sort of medium strength, and then crazy strength.
Right.
And that's also why a fighter never wants to hit somebody, a couple inches from their body. They want to meet them at full extension. If there's a 120-degree angle of inclusion right here, when the fighter connects with somebody, they might get knocked out. Other than that, probably not.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's that variance in from the weakest range to the shortest part of the range to the greatest. And if you put plates on it, you're not getting that same
You just get
degree
a flat line in the
variance. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like you have a curve like this, and the bar is just dead flat.
Yeah.
Like it's the same weight the whole time. That's not how muscle physiology works.
It's interesting.
And that's why the title I chose the book is "Weightlifting is a Waste of Time," because I can prove that.
Yeah.
I can prove it with 16 different studies, and there's an additional 250 different supporting ones throughout the book that talk about different aspects of training that just either make sense or don't make sense. Yeah.
So what's next then?
Well, this one would, I suppose, be optional for some. Like Ben Greenfield, he doesn't do bicep curls.
No.
And he's like, and it was really funny because the first time we met, I've been on his podcast twice. The first time we met was on his podcast. We had talked on the phone once or twice. But he thought he was going to ask me like a gotcha question. He's like, all right, tell me why in the world, by the way, we're doing a drag curl here. So most people do curls like this where they hold the most weight here.
Okay.
That's not smart.
Right.
Because that's not even where you're firing the most amount of muscle. A drag curl is when you drag it up your body.
Okay.
So.
Explain why. What's it?
Yeah, just there's much more of a contraction in the bicep.
Right. If you're putting your shoulders back and okay.
Now it works a lot better when you have variable resistance like this.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Ben Greenfield goes, why the hell do you have bicep curls in there? Like no one's doing specific, like arm work anymore except for bodybuilders. And I'm like, girls. He goes, what do you mean girls? I'm like, you like when girls look at your arms, right? And he goes, you know what, man, I got nothing. He goes, I was really gonna rake you over the coals for that. And yeah, I don't have a scientific answer for that. The reason we work biceps is so we look good.
Well, I guess it's a tiny muscle really compared to others. So in terms of the bicep stuff, I guess, do you like one set and that's it then?
Yep. Yeah, I'm done.
Okay.
Go for it.
How often do you do like in a
So
week?
I split the body two different ways. So there's push-pull split. And so I hit every body part three times a week, sorry.
3 times a week?
Yeah, so 6 workouts a week and then 1 day off.
All right. And at the bottom, where do I stop? About here?
Yeah.
Yeah? I'm not used to doing this kind of curl, but...
I don't think you'll ever curl another way now that we've gone over this. It's just so much more engagement. Yeah, you are only working a small muscle right now, but your heart rate's still through the roof. You can see on the monitor. Good.
And when I'm starting to fatigue...
Yep, you're right there, so just go here. Still do drag curl, still pull it back, still keep it near your body. Here you go. Check that out.
Yeah, well, 77%. It's not bad for curls. All
right. Yeah, you get a lot of blood flow there.
Yeah, you do.